Welcome back to... I almost said welcome back to Haunted Nights. I am not Haunted Nights. This is Haunted Nights, and I just did an unboxing video for them. But I am not Haunted Nights. What the fuck am I doing?
Welcome to the voicemail box of your local friendly Necromancer. Our hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. Please leave a detailed message on which human, animal, or vicious hellbeast you would like to resurrect. Your call will be returned within 3 business days to book an appointment. Please ensure to have your down payment of your soul or firstborn child, or the soul or firstborn child of another being if you do not have one, at the time of your appointment. Thank you.
It's been a long week, filming this on Friday. I just got out of work, so my brain is kind of fried right now. But anyway, welcome back to the Local Necromancer's Coffee Break, a podcast where we transcend this boring-ass human realm to absorb all of the paranormal juices. I always want an evil laugh after that. Okay, I had to get it out just once. So today, we are going to be talking about something that I was actually a little bit nervous to film in my home, specifically, because we're talking about the haunted experiences that I've had in my home. Now, recently, I sent in kind of a long encounter to a podcast called Two Girls, One Ghost, which is an incredible podcast, by the way. Highly recommend to go check out Two Girls, One Ghost if you haven't already. It's absolutely hilarious, super great information about the paranormal, and I absolutely love when they share other people's haunted encounters as well as their own. So I actually submitted one to them, and I decided, you know what, I also kind of want to read this on my podcast. So I'm going to grab the email that I sent them and I'm going to read it to you guys as well, because I keep promising that I will talk about my haunted house, and I have yet to do that, so guess I should do it now. But yeah, I definitely was a little nervous filming this here. Just because when I film, I tend to have more experiences anyway in my house, and with some of the things that I'm going to be talking about, I think you guys will see why I was a little nervous talking about this on camera. I actually thought about going to a family member's house or something to film this, because I'm like, do I want to unleash something that's going to be mad that I'm talking about it online? But oh well, fuck the one ghost in particular. Not actually, you know what I mean. So my tagline to the girls from Two Girls, One Ghost is, "Grumpy old ghost dislocates my shoulder, a cautionary paranormal tale." I'll try to do dramatic of this, because it's super fun. I wrote, "Hello, ghostesses. My name is Rana, and I've been listening to your podcast for a few weeks now. Now it's been over a month, I think. And I couldn't resist sending in an experience of my own. I've been a ghost magnet my entire life, and the nickname stuck when my old boss gave it to me. I worked for a movie theater that apparently hadn't experienced issues with their hauntings in years, until I got hired, of course. He never wanted to work with me solo again after we spent a customer-less shift chasing down each other's mimicked voices in empty theaters and watched an interior door open and slam shut by itself in front of both of us. And of course, my house is haunted. The only spirits in my childhood home where I spent the first 23 years of my life were a couple quiet past loved ones who didn't really make themselves known. So when I moved into a house where I experienced activity from night one, my party trick of being a ghost magnet felt more ominous, because now it affected my home. More specifically, my bedroom. Fuck that, man. I have been involved with paranormal since I was a kid. I have always loved the paranormal. I've loved trying to ghost hunt even as a kid. I was just fascinated by the idea of connecting with spirits and being in haunted locations. I loved it. But it is so different when it's your own home. Because when you're paranormal investigating, you go and you investigate a place overnight or whatever, you come home and you can sleep. You're fine. This is your safe space. So when you live in a haunted location, especially with some of the things I'm going to be talking about, it's a little unnerving. I stay upstairs, where we have a small bedroom, a storage room, and a 3-room master suite. At the time, it was just me and my mom, and I helped take care of her whether she likes it or not. The night we moved in, my new mattress hadn't arrived yet, and I hadn't hauled my old one out to the new house. So I slept on a futon, right here, this exact futon, in the center room of the 3-room suite, which is this room that I'm filming in right now. I was actually sleeping right here. I just pulled this down and I was sleeping. So like when you're in this room, there is a doorway on this wall and a doorway over on this wall. You're right in the center. So I slept on my futon, or I tried to. It's pretty hard to sleep when you feel eyes on you all night. Anytime I looked away or closed my eyes, I could feel something standing in the doorway to the first room watching me. So this room over here where the doorway is goes to my actual, what is now my bedroom. And that is the only way to the hallway. So keep in mind that there is only one entrance and exit to this 3-room suite. It wasn't a pleasant feeling. I've had spirits watch over me in my sleep before, my dad specifically, and the feeling of him is comforting and protective. This thing in the doorway, however, felt unsettled, and very unhappy, almost like it was watching me with held breath to see if I'd measure up to expectations. I told myself I was nervous over sleeping in an unfamiliar home. We hadn't started decorating yet, and most of the upstairs rooms were still empty, so I figured I was creeping myself out. A few weeks later, it was Halloween night. Right before midnight, I let my St. Bernard outside for a potty run, only to find a lone black cat staring at us from the end of the driveway. Now, I love black cats, they're fine. I don't freak out when I see them. I wouldn't have thought much of this superstition-wise if my dog had also noticed it. She's a very excitable girl and barks at anything that moves, for the love of God, anything that moves, even if it's the wind blowing the trees, because she thinks that barking at something will make it come play with her. But despite being only a few feet away from this cat, she never even saw it, almost like it wasn't there. I shook it off, brought her in, and put her to bed. I stayed up a little later writing my book, because there's no better time than, midnight to 3 a.m. to write a dark fantasy novel, when I heard what I thought was my mom coming up the stairs. At this point, I was staying in a small bedroom that's not connected to this suite. It's one of the other rooms up here. A place where my dog refused to stay very long without panicking. She would not even hardly go in the door to that room. She did not like the vibes. Now, the downstairs bathroom already needed repairs because old houses, woo! So I didn't think much of my mom coming up to use mine. What caught me off guard was how well she did the stairs. My mom has horrendous arthritis damage, and she has a hard time walking on level surfaces, let alone climbing a staircase. The steps were swift as they hit the upstairs landing, went into the bathroom, and closed the door. I opened my bedroom door and asked,
"Everything okay?"
No response. Then I noticed that there was no light under the bathroom door, and I started to get worried. Was she sleepwalking? Was there something wrong? I knocked on the door. Again, no response. I cracked open the bathroom door to find no one inside. My stomach rose like I was getting ready to drop on a roller coaster. It's a feeling I know well because it usually comes before or after a paranormal encounter. Something had walked up the stairs into the bathroom and shut the door that always stayed open if no one was inside. I tried to brush this off and go to sleep, but when my closet door popped open in the middle of the night, just like it had during the night a few other times since moving in, sleep wasn't happening. This began a long series of encounters that have now turned into some kind of ghost human roommate sitcom. But unfortunately, it got worse before getting better, if you can consider it better right now. A few months later, I had surgery to diagnose and clean out endometriosis. I wasn't supposed to do stairs for the first week or so, and I made my home on the couch, near the end of my couch stay. I was awake late one night watching videos on my phone when I heard footsteps in the kitchen. I sat up and saw who I, again, thought was my mom walk around the corner from the kitchen into her bedroom. But I didn't hear her bed springs, and she didn't turn on any lights, so I got up to check on her. When I walked into her bedroom, she was sound asleep. My body went on another forced roller coaster ride because, if she was sound asleep, she obviously hasn't just been up. It takes her time to get up and down from things. I would have heard her bed springs. There was no bathroom light on. Again, she's in her bed. She is sound asleep. There was no way it was her. Little things happened here and there around the house. Just enough for us to both gaslight ourselves into saying they were coincidence, even though we both knew better and were both sensitive to spirits, especially myself. One weekend, I hung up 2 octagon shelves and a framed artwork of my book characters. Now, this used to be my home office in this middle room here, and it was exactly where I felt something watching me my very first night in the house. You can only imagine what happened as I used this for an office. Apparently, the spirits here don't like my book characters because I was awoken at 2:30 a.m. by both shelves and the frame crashing from the wall. Yeah. Lovely noise. Despite my obvious terror, I tried rolling over to sleep, only to hear another thud from the room. I ignored it, because obviously, if you pay no attention, it's not there. That's how it works, right? I was very wrong, because I woke up the next morning to find that a book had somehow fallen from the top shelf of my bookshelf, which is packed so tightly that I literally struggled just to get books into the shelf, let alone to take something off. So the fact that something had ripped this book from the shelf onto the floor was impossible unless there was actually somebody physically grabbing it. The next evening, I rehung the shelves and the painting, and I wedged the book back in its spot. Nothing happened overnight. So I figured maybe I'm safe. Maybe there was some freak earthquake in the middle of the night. I don't know. Until I came home from work the next day. My mother asked if my shelves had fallen again. I ran upstairs to find that, yes, both shelves and the frame had fallen, and it actually cracked the glass. That is a new frame that is not cracked. I'd had enough. Even though I'd investigated places before, whether they were places I just hung out at or places I worked, I'd always heeded the whole, don't investigate your own house rule. I didn't even know where my sparse equipment ended up when we moved, so I downloaded a few random investigation apps, even though I'm typically pretty skeptical of them. One of these was a spirit box known as Necrophonic. I didn't hold much hope, but figured, what the hell? As soon as I turned it on, a woman's voice immediately shouted the name Dan. I leapt out of my computer chair. I had just turned on my computer and opened up a Google Doc that I had not opened since we moved into the house. I hadn't talked about these characters since they moved into the house. I hadn't opened this document. I hadn't done anything for this story since we moved in. But that document was open on my screen because I was finally going to sit down and work on it. And the character on the page was named Dan. This began a half-hour-long spirit box session, where I believe I may have contacted the spirit of one of the previous owners, a soft-spoken yet firm woman who didn't speak the best English, but she tried very hard to come through. She was afraid of having new owners in the home, and she didn't like change. I assured her that we love and cherish this house the same way she did, and we would do everything we could to protect it and make it safe. The last thing I heard on the spirit box was her first name, which was a very distinct, uncommon foreign name, and thank you. And it really didn't surprise me that it was her that I spoke to that day, because we knew that she had passed away, likely here in the house, and there were rumors that her husband had also passed away in this house. And for their privacy, I'm not going to state either of their names, and that is just because I live in a very small community, and if people do not know whose house I own, because of some of the topics that I'm about to bring up later in this video, that is why I'm not stating either of their names. It is for their own privacy. Activity settled for a long time, but I could never shake the feeling that she hadn't been the full source of the encounters. Her presence didn't feel dominating and borderline angry, just anxious and a little unsettled. Fast forward almost a year later. I moved out of the old bedroom when my brother moved back home, so I figured giving the man with hearing damage my haunted abode with doors popping open at all hours would work out fine. And it has, because it doesn't bother him. He doesn't even hear it. So I settled into the very back room of the L-shaped master suite, and in these rooms again, the only way out is through the first room. So the back bedroom where I was sleeping, you have to go through all the other rooms to get out. There's no easy exit unless you decide jumping from the second story is a good idea. It was freshly repainted, and I spent a lot of time redecorating so that it felt a little more comfortable, because honestly, all three of these rooms can be very uncomfortable feeling. When the spirits decided that this change was also not acceptable, it wasn't the kinder female spirit that made it known. It was the angrier, male-presenting spirit that made my bones shudder. I felt more uncomfortable than I did in my old room, which said a lot. I woke up around, ta-da, 3 a.m. to use the bathroom, and when I came back to bed, I had just started nodding off when I felt something grab my shoulder like a vice. I'm a stomach sleeper, and this hand pressed my shoulder so hard to the mattress that I couldn't move. My throat tightened up, and I couldn't even scream. Part of me wondered if someone had broken in, and I watched enough true crime to know it wouldn't bode well for me. And even as I'm talking about this, my throat is tightening up, because it's almost like flashbacks to when it happened, because it is probably the most terrifying paranormal encounter I've ever had in my life. I tried to fight back, and the pressure on my shoulder grew until I felt a pop, and then it released. I flung myself out of bed, but there was no one with me. My shoulder throbbed. I ran downstairs, where the energy is always a lot lighter, and it's never oppressive, because the past loved ones who stay with us, they typically remain downstairs. So when I was safely on the couch with my dog, I realized my shoulder wasn't just sore. It was dislocated. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, so my connective tissues suck, and I dislocate my joints for absolutely no reason. But this wasn't no reason. Something had pinned me down with enough force to pull my shoulder out of its joint. Thankfully, having EDS means I can also swiftly pop my joints back in, so I resituated my shoulder, took some meds, and failed to sleep. Usually I'm used to dislocation pain and I don't really feel it after a couple hours, but the pain in this joint and all the surrounding muscles was so intense that I ended up in the doctor's office 2 weeks later. I just told her I dislocated my shoulder hanging curtains, because how the fuck do you tell a doctor that a ghost pinned you to your bed? And I work in the mental health field, so I moved my bed to the first room of the suite. It was really my only other option. I mean, you either keep it in the room or something just physically harmed me. Go into this room here where shelves crash down and something grumpily watches me sleep with an angry face or something, I don't know. Or try my luck in the first room, because it has a direct escape to the hall. And honestly, the only thing that's ever happened to me in that room is somebody breathing directly into my ear, which is not pleasant, but it's not dangerous. So weigh your options there. Ever since I can tell something is occupying these other two rooms, I will still hear like footsteps and stuff when I'm trying to sleep, and it's freaky as hell. It's almost like it's frustrated that I'm not in one of these two rooms anymore. I don't know what it is about the first room. It's almost like they can't mess with me too much there, and something just keeps it from lashing out. Still, there are many nights I resort to making my bed on the downstairs couch with my fur baby, because, you know, drama. Now my back room there is my home office. Usually I record in there, but I decided to try recording in the middle room here today because why not? Little better space, and there's no shortage of activity honestly in either of these two rooms here. Like, I had knocks on my desk while filming one of the other episodes. I have a Wednesday Addams thing hand that you probably have seen in my other videos. I think I showed it off in my Edgar Allan Poe reading, and it will like turn itself on the shelf when I'm not looking. That bothers me. Do not come crawling on me, thing. And, you know, I just occasionally get touched if my arms and legs are not covered with like a hoodie and sweatpants. Since then, we have discovered who the grumpy spirit is. Unfortunately, we're 99.5% sure it's the spirit of the husband who previously owned this home. We found out recently that he married his wife in exchange for doing a kind deed for her parents when he visited her home country. He didn't know her, and she didn't have a choice in the exchange. She was essentially given as payment to this cold, stern American man against her will. I can literally feel too, like something is like not pushing down on me, but like there is something like, there's like a presence behind me that is like almost making me want to hunch my shoulders. It's weird. After speaking to those who knew him closely, he was not always kind to his wife. We don't know the extent, but we can only imagine what it entailed. A man who views women as purchasable objects and isn't kind in his treatment towards her sounds exactly like a man who in the afterlife would shove a woman down to her bed until her shoulder popped out. An asshole in life is an asshole in death. Now we kind of coexist. Pretty sure he hates me, and I'm not overly fond of him myself, but I get my kicks from, you know, harassing him and telling him to fuck off. So if you guys have seen like my other videos and like something creepy will come across Spirit Talker and I'm just like, oh, fuck off. That's why, like, normally I am respectful towards spirits. That's something that's very important in paranormal investigating, is to be kind and respectful. But when it comes to him, hell no, I don't even care. He's an asshole. I'm a usually level-headed paranormal investigator, and I treat spirits with respect, but I have a blast sassing him, roasting him, and telling him to straight up fuck off when he gives me creepy shit or moves my things around. I don't like furniture being forcefully rearranged. It drives me batshit. But that is the story of how I ended up with a grumpy old dead man as my roommate. Yay me. But if he touches my coffee, I will hire Dean Winchester to come and whoop his ass. And that is where I ended it. I mean, it's wild the things that still happen up here, and just the stark difference between upstairs and downstairs in this house is wild. I mean, you can tell downstairs it is family members, past loved ones, all kinds of good, lovely, wholesome spirits. And then you come up here. It's like, okay, literally something is like, oh, my shoulder just got a huge pain in the muscle. Yeah. And this was the shoulder that it happened to, so that's not boding well for me. So I'm probably gonna wrap it up here before I get shoved down, I guess. Yay! But that is all for today. I hope you guys have a lovely day. Stay safe. Don't get possessed. Don't sell your soul. Don't let a grumpy old man ghost push you against your bed or dislocate any of your joints. Make sure you drink lots of coffee, sprinkle a little water in there, and I guess I'm just gonna keep adding things to this list. So yeah, love you guys. Bye!